I'm going to walk through this review with a calm eye because I know how easy it is to feel stuck between I need a powerful rig now and what if I end up with something I can't actually use the way I want. If you're on the fence, you're probably wondering whether a pre-build like the Skytech Gaming King 95 will actually save you time and money, or just add another box of hardware you'll outgrow in a year. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. Let's break down the real-world experience so you can decide if this machine fits your lifestyle or if you'd be better off building or buying something else. First off, the biggest hesitation most buyers have with a pre-built gaming PC is the trade-off between convenience and flexibility. You get a system that's assembled, tested, and ready to plug in, but you also hand over a lot of control over components, upgrade paths, and sometimes even the firmware that runs the hardware. With the King 95, Skytech is selling a fairly high-end spec sheet, an AMD Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, an RTX 5070 Ti with 16GB of GDDR7, 32GB of DDR5 6000 RAM, and a 1TB Gen 4 NVMe drive, all cooled by a 360mm AIO liquid cooler. Those numbers look impressive on paper, but the question is how they translate when you sit down after work and fire up a game, stream, or a VR session. One of the practical strengths that shows up day to day is the combination of the 7800X 3D and the RTX 5070 Ti. The 7800X 3D's 3D V-Cache architecture is known for delivering a noticeable bump in gaming frame rates, especially in titles that are sepia-bound, like Assassin's Creed Valhalla or Elden Ring. In my own testing, I could push those games at 1440p with ultra settings and still hover around 100 frames per second, which means smooth gameplay without having to dial down visual fidelity. The RTX 5070 Ti, while a newer generation than the 3080, still holds its own in ray-traced workloads. I tried Cyberpunk 2077 with ray tracing set to medium and DLSS on, and the system kept a stable 7080 frames per second at 1440p. That's the kind of performance you need if you're also planning to stream on Twitch. The GPU has enough headroom to handle encoding without dropping frames. Another everyday benefit is the 1TB Gen 4 SSD paired with the DDR5 memory. Load times on modern games are practically negligible. Metro Exodus launched in under 5 seconds from the desktop, and Microsoft Flight Simulator streamed terrain without stutter after the initial load. The SSD's Gen 4 bandwidth isn't always fully utilized in current titles, but it future-proofs you for the next wave of games that will demand faster storage. The 32GB of RAM also means you can keep a browser with dozens of tabs, a Discord voice channel, and a recording software open while gaming, something that a 16GB system would start to choke on. Now let's talk about the practical weaknesses that often get glossed over in marketing copy. First, the Wi-Fi is limited to 802.11 AC, Wi-Fi 5. For most households that still run a gigabit Ethernet connection, that's fine, but if you're relying on wireless for a 5 GHz network, you won't get the low-latency performance that Wi-Fi 6 offers, something that competitive gamers might notice during online matches. The case is also a proprietary Skytech design that isn't as easy to open as a typical ATX tower. While the internal layout is tidy and the liquid cooler is well-mounted, swapping out a drive or adding an extra PCIe card can be a bit fiddly, especially if you're not used to handling cable management in tight spaces. It's not impossible, but it does add a small barrier for anyone who likes to tinker. Another hidden trade-off is the power supply. The 850W gold-rated unit is generous for this build, which is a plus if you ever plan to upgrade to a more power-hungry GPU down the line. However, the PSU isn't modular, meaning you have a bundle of cables that you can't detach. That can make cable routing messy and can affect airflow if you're trying to keep the case as clean as possible. It's a small inconvenience but worth noting if you value a pristine interior. Price is the elephant in the room. The King 95 lands in a price bracket that competes with a decent DIY build consisting of the same CPU, a comparable RTX 3070 Ti, and a 1TB SSD. Building it yourself would likely shave a few $100s off the total, assuming you have the time and tools. The premium you pay here is essentially for the labor, the pre-tested stability, the 1-year warranty, and the fact that you can unbox and start gaming within minutes. If you're a student or a professional with limited free time, that convenience can be worth the extra cost. If you enjoy building PCs and want to get every penny out of every component, you might feel the price is a bit steep.